Hey boys and girls, welcome back to the channel. Legacy here. Wanted to just kind of give a brief update on the status of No Man's Sky and if the game is fixed or not. Now, real quick, right up front, two things that I really don't want this video to be about. Firstly, the missing features. I believe that almost should be looked at as kind of a separate issue, and we can have videos about that. I already had a couple, but mainly want to focus on the health of the game as it is right now. The other conversation I don't really wish to have is the game worth $60 as it is right now? Because that's so subjective and so widely interpreted as value versus need versus content that I just don't think it bears repeating at this point. What I do want to focus on is the state of the game so far on three things mainly, but first let's talk the first thing, performance. I know a lot of my Twitter friends and a lot of the folks around the internet returned to the game, sold it, or got refunds based on performance. As a matter of fact, a lot of those folks were enjoying the game as it was, but saw the performance problems as just unacceptable and didn't wish to play the game any further. And frankly, I can't blame them when your experience is constantly being marred by lockups, freezes, and things like that. You really just have to call it what it is and really kind of punish the developer for launching a game in such a broken state. There have been those that have said that they do wish to buy in or consider buying in to the game again once it's been fixed. So let's talk performance. Firstly, most of this comes from my experience, so this is kind of a sort of a vacuum tube of conversation. But going for the perspective that I have around the internet so far of those still playing the game, I'd like to report that locking up and freezing just isn't an issue anymore. Honestly, I've only had one lockup where I've had to completely restart the game since patch 1.05. And it seemed that a lot of the locking up issues that the game had revolved around certain circumstances like warping or holding the circle button for too long, or just little random things like that that just sort of cause things to just not work properly and then hence lock the game up. Frame rate wise, it's actually pretty stable. Every now and again you might come across some dips where the game is loading in, where performance is concerned, especially where lots of procedural generation is happening at once. Planets that have a lot of fauna and flora on them, you might see a lot of dipping when you're coming into the atmosphere. You might see some dipping when turning sharply, and this is the PS4 version, by the way. I don't have the PC version of the game, at least not yet. Kinda waiting for that to get ironed out, and my poor little 670 may not handle that game the best way I want it to. But for those of you that were waiting to purchase or buy back into No Man's Sky because of the performance problems, I'm happy to report that, at least from my experience, there's not really much, if at all, for performance problems anymore. As a matter of fact, a lot of it's been improved. Frame rates are more stable, procedural generation is more stable. There is some issues when it comes to, it almost seems like they kind of sacrificed building generation, and buildings seem to pop in when they're a little bit closer to you, which can be a little bit annoying. But other than that, things seem to come in and draw a little bit faster. Let's look into the next big issue, systems, and kind of not, at least I'm personally not as happy as I think I could be with the systems so far in this game. There's been a lot of tweaks and minor UI and systems improvements, bug fixes, things like that to just kind of get rid of erroneous materials or stacking bugs and things like that, kind of, I don't know, for better or for worse. But what I still have to say about the user interface is it's still annoyingly slow, and there's still some bugs not allowing milestone attainment. So on a planet that I was attempting to try to get the 100% species discovery, the game did not give me the milestone for achieving that. I don't know if that was previously a bug or if it was and they said it was fixed, but that doesn't appear to be so. One thing that I don't know if they can fix or if they just haven't gotten around to it yet is the speed of UI elements. Like when you're interacting with aliens or monoliths, it's still painfully slow how long that stuff loads in. And maybe that's just an inconvenience for a lot of us, but I think it can still cause bigger problems, like say you're being attacked by a sentinel as you're trying to read these things and you're waiting for this menu to slowly load in. That can just be really annoying, right? If you're on planets where sentinels are largely hostile, this can just be annoying. But overall, if you're looking for a more stable experience and you were disappointed with No Man's Sky because of all of the performance problems and locking up, I can say that a lot of that has been comfortably fixed. Hello Games has put out quite a bit of patches so far. They've been doing a lot of work, so even in the face of all of the silence that they have, this isn't such a big problem anymore. What I think is the biggest problem, if you're looking at if No Man's Sky is fixed yet, even though I didn't want to make the conversation about missing features and is the game worth $60, No Man's Sky's biggest problem still is communication. Right? It was reported just recently that the game is under 1,000 concurrent players on Steam, and that's kind of harsh, and that worries me. And if you're a watcher of Kinda Funny, the folks they had a podcast talking about the sort of ticking time bomb that is people's patience, and at some point when the ship leaves the port, it doesn't come back. And Hello Games has still been frustratingly quiet about what's going on with this game. And I don't believe that we have contractual obligations anymore or something from Sony that just completely demands that they shut up about their own game. With each passing day, everything seems to be more about we're just gonna stop talking about the game, work on it, fix it, and then continue to put out patches. And with each passing day, it gets more and more frustrating and more terrible that we don't get to hear from Sean Murray and crew about the status of the game. There's still nothing about the perspective on what happened with the launch, and we have very little perspective about the future of the game. I know as the game is right now, I absolutely love it. It still has its problems. It still has a lot of shortcomings. It's very much an exploration game, collecting resources, exploring stuff, flying to planet with seemingly no goal, right? If that is a thing that you don't attach yourself to, if that's not the kind of gamer you are, then No Man's Sky still isn't for you. Nothing has been fixed there. But if you're okay with a laid-back experience where you're exploring worlds and beautiful scenery and happening upon cool monsters and aliens and creatures and things like that, No Man's Sky is still a pretty cool experience that if you're on the fence, I still think that it's worth that you give it a try. Give it a rent. Stop by a Redbox. If you're a Gamefly member, totally worth an exploration, totally worth diving in to see if it's something for you. But there's really no promises as of yet as to the future of what No Man's Sky looks like. I know they're talking about base building and owning your own freighters as two big key points coming up. Also, Paul Weir talked about the future of audio and what the audio of the game looks like, adding more audio, mixing it up more. So I think that's really cool too. But now that we have 1.09 out, I'd really like to start hearing about what the future is, and Hello Games really needs to start speaking back up about what happened and what we can expect for the future of No Man's Sky. If you thought this was useful information and you liked the content of the video, go ahead and give me a like and subscribe if you'd like future videos from me. But otherwise, I hope you all have a great weekend and see you next time.